Hi, I'm Amanda Lynne, internationally accredited kinesiologist and founder of Eye-motional processes. Today, I'm here to introduce Barbara Malarski, Doctor of Chinese Medicine and my friend and fellow colleague of 23 years. Malarski brings with her a skill set that is equal to no other. What Barbara Malarski has brought to the clinic and the field of this practice has now come together in her website called the School of Green Medicine. Barbara has over 28 years of clinical experience. She has over 3 decades working with Indigenous Australians in Far North Queensland and New South Wales communities. And she is a teacher and educator, and she also developed the Natural Therapies Department in Far North Queensland TAFE, where she taught over 750 students in the fields of massage therapy and Oriental medicine. So, Barbara, you've invited me to this beautiful sanctuary that you've created called Oak Beach Dreaming. It's the lifestyle retreat and accommodation. And we're here to talk about your offerings on the School of Green Medicine website. Welcome.
Oh, thank you, Amanda. I'm so pleased that you're here and we've got this opportunity to talk about green medicine.
Me too. So, Green Medicine, which is all your website information, has a certain approach to health. What is that?
I think Joni Mitchell summed it up in the 70s in her song when she said, "We've got to get back to the garden." And I think we're at a critical time now in the history on this planet where we're recognising how important nature is and the environment. We've been exposed to so many natural disasters, and we've just had a fairly major event here in 2023 when we had Cyclone Jasper, and we're still recovering now from that particular cyclone and the impact that it's had on us. So green medicine's really looking at our connection with the environment and our connection with nature, and it's reminding us that we as humans are a micro reflection of the macro, which is the bigger world, the universe itself. We're not, disconnected from it. And so my whole principle of green medicine is to integrate the natural environment into our human environment, which also has got to do with our body and our health and our wellness.
Fantastic.
So that's also, when I talk about nature, I'm also talking about the laws of nature. So the laws of nature very much are reflected in what Indigenous people in this country and other countries actually lived by. So they lived according to the seasons. They understood when different foods grew. They had different practices for different times of the years. And I think that the laws of nature are really critical in terms of taking us back to that, getting back to the garden, when we talk about that. And in Chinese medicine, we talk about Yang Sheng. That's the term that we use to describe what we call nourishing life, which is really a whole practice of how we can be where we are more in balance and harmony, and where our health and wellness becomes a priority.
So this Yang Sheng that you're discussing in this moment, it really is part of the bigger construct of what you deliver in the School of Green Medicine website, isn't it?
It is. And if you go to my website, you'll see that I've outlined an 8-module course that I actually was going to deliver online. I'm still going to deliver that now, but I'm going to deliver it face-to-face, either, over a weekly duration, or people can come together and we can do it in a 2 or 3 day retreat.
Yeah.
So I welcome people to come up and experience that. And, I'll be taking people through Yang Sheng and what's involved with Yang Sheng, which will be things like exercise therapy, food therapy. We'll be looking at the emotional components. We'll be looking at lifestyle issues. A lot of people have problems these days with things like their sleep patterns. And more now we're seeing people with, many more chronic health disorders. Yang Sheng is really about prevention, and that is that we, on a day-to-day basis, take in small measures that actually add up to a big result in terms of our overall health, so we can reduce some of those chronic diseases that we're experiencing.
So it's like you're saying, getting back to the garden, so tending to our garden in different ways is all part of the construct of Yang Sheng.
Correct, because if you think about our garden, look, if we don't water our garden, if we don't fertilise the garden, then the garden dies. And, if you think Chinese medicine really looks at the human body as a garden. So, in what ways do we nourish our body? In what ways do we feed our body? In what ways do we water our body? And that goes across a whole range of things. Like, as I said, our digestion, which is central to everything, where we get our food from, how sustainable are our food sources. I think you're probably aware that, like a lot of our food sources and the kind of food that we're eating, the impact of that food, because the quality of the soil is quite denuded. So we're not getting the quality that we'd normally get, things like zinc and other kind of vitamins that we would get in our food, we're just not getting anymore. So green medicine looks very holistically at all these different aspects. How can we live in a more sustainable way?
That's lovely. And I suppose a lot of your work in communities and Indigenous communities has informed this practice with you as well.
Yeah, it has, because I spent 3 decades working with Indigenous people on the Cape in individual communities, but also in New South Wales. And I learnt so much from working with Indigenous people, because I feel that particularly traditional culture was very much grounded in connection with nature, connection to country, connection to community. And those are kind of some of the principles of green medicine. How do we get back to kind of not feeling and living so separately, but being connected in our community? That community may well just be the neighbourhood that you live in, or the people that you gather with to do certain activities. And we're not just talking about our biological family, it's much broader than that. But these are the principles that actually enhance our health. And I think there's a lot of knowledge out there now around blue zones as well, which is, zones that are recognised throughout the world where people are living to 100 plus. And they're talking about a lot of the things that I'm talking about in green medicine. They're talking about people who are connected to community, people who are socially engaged and socially connected. We're talking about just a more meaningful way of being rather than living separately and being isolated.
So it's the things that nourish us rather than
Yes,
deplete us.
correct.
And the elements of those things can go into everything.
They go into every aspect.
And that's what your course teaches.
Absolutely. And so I'm teaching, I'm teaching all these different aspects so that people can actually learn how to bring some of these, what might appear like very small things, into their life on a day-to-day basis. But these small things that we do every day make a big difference. And prevention is really critical to Yang Sheng. So what happens is now we've got an epidemic proportion now on this planet of people with chronic health disorders, cancer, heart disease, mental health disease. And these things don't just appear overnight, they appear over a long period of time. So in Yang Sheng, we also look at things like emotions and trauma, and recognize how trauma, not just individual trauma, but generational trauma, has really impacted on people's, well-being, and how it affects the physical body. Carolyn Mace, who is a medical intuitive, said, our biography becomes our biology.
Yes. Very true. So thank you so much, Barb. That sounds incredible. And it's something we all need to be conscious and to start to invoke Yang Sheng principles in our life. And it's wonderful that your website brings that to us. So when it comes to your website, what would people expect to see when they visit?
So when people go to School of Green Medicine, which is my website, they'll see some blogs, they'll see podcasts, there'll be writings and ramblings. And on top of that, people have the opportunity also to go to my Oak Beach Dreaming website, where I live, which is on an acre and a half in far north Queensland, just about 15 minutes south of Port Douglas. We have an accommodation retreat space where people can come to. It's 2-bedroom, and it's a place where people can come to and just really relax and experience the green medicine principles, which is connecting with nature, getting into a silent space, getting away from, the stress of daily life. So those things are things that I offer, and we've been offering Oak Beach Streaming now as a retreat space for nearly 10 years. So we've had lots of different people here. We've had writers come and do writers' retreat, and we've had, just individuals who just want to come and spend 10 days here and just renew and reset themselves, and it's just open for people to do that.
That's lovely. And I know too, you get a lot of corporate guests who are just needing to unplug.
Yes. We have a lot of people from Melbourne and Sydney
Mm.
who come here, and, of course, those people need green medicine as well. And green medicine, it doesn't matter whether you live here, whether you live in a big city. We've got parks around us. We've got access to ways to actually access the principles that I'm talking about with green medicine. They're everywhere.
They are. And your environment is beautiful.
Yeah, it's a very beautiful environment. And I have my clinical practice here as well. And, my clients love coming here, and they talk about, how they drop into a deep space before we even have the acupuncture session, and they love the sound of the birds and they love the trees. So that all contributes to their experience.
That's beautiful. So if this piqued your interest today and you want to dive in to some of Barbara Malarski's offerings, just visit www.schoolofgreenmedicine.com, and we'll see you back here on Barb's channel very soon. She's got lots of videos coming out, so keep staying tuned. Bye for now.
Barbara Malarski is a doctor of Chinese medicine with 25 years clinical expertise. She has a teaching background, establishing a natural therapies program in Cairns, far north Queensland, Australia, where she trained over 750 students in remedial massage and oriental health medicine. Her other passion developed through working with First Nations people in New Zealand, where she was born, and 3 decades in Australia on Cape York and in New South Wales, working with Indigenous and Torres Strait Islander communities. These experiences have enriched her life through deep connection with people and the environments they live in. Barbara resides in Oak Beach, far north Queensland, on 2 acres of forest that border World Heritage listed forest. She sees herself as a privileged custodian.